Ads not read by me, Mary Payne, don't necessarily reflect the views of Pink Shade. If you'd like to listen to ad free, you're going to go on over to Supercast or Patreon, and you can find the links to Pink Shade Prime at pinkshadepodcast.com.
Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a find, catch me a catch. Night after night in the dark, I'm alone. So find me a match of my own.
Hey everybody, welcome to Pink Shade. It's Match Me Abroad Day, and I'm so lucky because I have one of the stars of Match Me Abroad. It's Nathaly. You remember Nathaly last week had the date with Alejandro, I think was his name, the guy that went to the botanical gardens, and he said he was into angels, but he didn't want to talk about that before sex, which was interesting. Welcome, Nathaly. It's so good to see you.
Hi, thank you for having me on the podcast.
Nathaly. I'm trying to say it right.
Yeah.
I'll just
Honestly,
it's like skipping the H.
totally fine.
Yeah. I don't want to say it wrong. I in my notes I always write down Stanika and I put in parentheses like Topeka, so I say it right.
Honestly, I've dealt with people saying my name wrong, like basically my whole life. I feel like it's changed as I've gotten older too, because even for me, I didn't know how to say my name properly when I was a kid. And I was always just too nervous to even correct them. For like a good portion of my life, people have always
Yes.
been saying my name wrong. So it's okay.
I get it. All right,
Yeah.
so tell me about where you grew up. Did you grow up in California?
Yeah, I grew up in California. So I grew up in Anaheim up until I was 10. I was actually born in Staten Island though. So most people
Oh.
of my ethnicity, there's like a really big Sri Lankan population in Staten Island.
Hmm.
So that's where my mom ended up first, but she hated the weather and she was like, I'm not staying where it snows, and moved to California. So now we're here. And now I live in
Love
Menifee.
that.
Yes.
Love that. It's Menifee is it Northern California or Southern California?
It's Southern California. It's like a smaller town. I feel like a lot of people think all of California just has like big cities and big towns, but no, Menifee is like a very small town. It's mostly like retired military and like ranches. It's not a super developed area.
Yeah. Okay, well it sounds nice because the weather's nice at least, you know?
Yes, yes. California weather is nice.
Yes. So what do you do for a job? Because we heard you say on this last episode we heard you say that you wanted to go to law school. So what are you doing?
Yeah, so at that time I did really, because since I was a kid, I've always wanted to go to law school. And then when I got out of college, I worked as a paralegal and I was like, oh my God, I am now realizing I don't want to be in law. This is like
Yeah.
so boring and it's like nonstop paperwork. And I had also done an IT job at that time and I realized I liked IT so much more. So now that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a IT help desk analyst job right now.
Oh, that's cool. All right. Well,
Yeah.
then maybe you can help me edit this podcast. I don't know. Like that sounds like
You know,
hard.
I wish, but podcast editing seems a lot more difficult. Like audio engineering it seems hard.
I think it is. I don't do it, so
Yeah.
I don't know. So tell me about how did you hear about this show and tell me about the casting process.
So honestly, I was emailed about this show. I had applied for 90 Day Fiance like 2 years or something like that before Match Me Abroad. And I guess they kept my profile, which I don't know what that says about me, that they were like, let's save this girl's profile for when we come up with something new. And then that's when they contacted me about Match Me Abroad. And I was like, sure, like, why not? Because I'm a huge TLC fan. I used to love 90 Day Fiance. So I was like, yes, I would love to join the crew.
Okay, so when you applied for 90 Day Fiance, did you have a 90 Day Fiance?
I did. So my last boyfriend was someone who I met when I was in Lebanon. And I was in Lebanon for about half a year. I met him like, I think like the first week I had landed. And we got into a really serious relationship. And even when I returned to the US, we were like really taking everything seriously. And I was like, you know what, how fun would it be if we were on 90 Day Fiance? And that's why I applied. But then we like broke up. 4 months later, and then I was like, sorry, you guys, I'm not going to be on 90 Day Fiance.
I do feel that sometimes people go on that show and they have broken up, but because they get cast, then they have to pretend like they're still together. I do think that has to
Oh,
happen.
yeah. I mean, maybe. I'm not sure.
But you didn't do that. Well, that's interesting. So TLC, yeah, because we cover, of course, we're covering this show, but we also cover 90 Day Fiance, and we'll cover anything that Matt Sharp puts out. We're big Matt Sharp
Yeah.
fans over here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's super entertaining. I mean, a big reason why I like 90 Day Fiance is because it doesn't really feel like fake reality TV. There's so many awkward moments between the characters,
Yeah,
and you really see their flaws, So it feels
yeah.
very authentic.
So, okay, so that leads me into my next question was, so you had traveled to other countries before, because some people on the show have like never been on a plane, never been to another country, and then they're thrown into this. But it sounds like you're well traveled.
Yeah, I've been traveling basically since I was like born, like literally. I my first flight, I think I was 6 months old. I have like
Hmm.
baby pictures of me on like flights and stuff like that. But like traveling, that was mostly to go to my parents' country. I didn't like do my own independent on my own travel until I was like maybe like 16. And then after that, I like once I got into college, I was just traveling a lot more. I did so many study abroads. I did like volunteer trips, just a lot of stuff like that.
Well, that's cool. And so they reached out to you about being on this show, and they said, okay. And so, do you want to go to Colombia and try to find a boyfriend? And you're like, why not?
Yeah, I mean, they had given us like the option to choose a country. I don't really have like a racial preference or like a preference of destination in general. I did actually say that I preferred Asia, just Asia in general, whether it's like Eastern, Western, South. I just felt like I had in my dating history, I've mostly dated people from the Asian continent, and I just feel like there's like a
Hmm.
higher compatibility. But I think because of COVID, it was just like not looking good.
Yeah.
So Colombia was suggested, and I was like, why not? It sounds like it could be a good idea.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about your mom and this whole culture, the Sri Lankan culture of marriage. So is your mom really trying to do like an arranged marriage with you, or she just wants to approve of the guy, or how does that work?
Um, I think because our community here in California is so small, it's not like I'm just gonna bump into a Sri Lankan guy and be able to like bring him home. It's like very
Yeah.
unlikely. So it's like if I'm gonna be with a Sri Lankan guy, it's gonna have to be my mom looking and finding like where are the single guys at, like talking to my local temple and getting like the little gossip from the aunties who has the single sons and then
Yeah.
introduce me to them. So it is very much like my mom wants me to do an arranged marriage, and I actually don't mind that. I'm okay with having an arranged marriage, but my mom, to me, I'm like, where are your standards? You can't just bring anyone to me, you know? So that's where the issue comes.
Now, would you do like a for real arranged marriage where you met somebody for 30 minutes and then married them? Or you mean they could bring them to you and you'll date them, and then you would be okay with it if they arranged it, or would you do like a real arranged marriage where like you didn't know each other very long and got married?
So in Sri Lankan culture, there isn't really like a time like, oh, you have to do it like quickly. There's a lot of people who I would say the standard is for arranged marriages, you know them for a few years. Like you
Oh,
actually date
okay.
for a few years and then you have the marriage. The reason why
Okay.
it's still called arranged is because your parents are organizing it, and it's not like you're doing anything behind your parents' back. Like your parents know like when you're gonna go on a date, all of this stuff. Like the families are constantly involved throughout those years up until you get married.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the guys that she set you up with are just like, no go. No way.
Yeah, because she like picks guys who are like double my age. And in the show you hear me say like I feel like it's very business transactional with my mom. And I think that
Yeah.
sounds confusing to people because it's sounding like, well, why would you go with the matchmaker then? Because that's more business like. But what I mean by that is like with the matchmaker, they're finding someone who's compatible for me. With my mom, it feels like a business transaction because she's looking for who can give you a house, who can bring steady income, like all these like really superficial, what almost feels like transactional qualities that aren't really centered on love, you know?
She wants it to look good on paper, and you need to like have a connection with the person.
Yes, like anyone she's brought to me is super successful, like really financially has everything there. Like I can't really criticize them in terms of having their life together. But when I talk to them, I'm like, we have nothing in common. There's so many times where she's even brought like someone over, like for me to talk to, and they're not even talking to me. I just feel like I'm like a crazy person yapping away while they're staring at me, you know? So it's just, yeah, personality wise, she's not able to find someone compatible.
So, how did your family feel, like your mom or anybody else in your family feel when you told them you were going to do this show?
I think they were really they didn't even have, like, thoughts. They were, like, really confused on if I was even be like, "Was this a joke? Like, am I joking right now?" And then finally, like, the cameras showed up, and they were like, "Oh my god, she really actually is going through a matchmaker, and she's gonna go to Colombia." And the whole time, my mom was just shocked. She just could not understand what was going on. My dad kinda got on board and was like, "Hey, if this is what you wanna do," but my mom was constantly, like, really confused.
When you went from California to Colombia, did you have like a producer flies with you, and then when you get there, you have like a crew on the ground there, like a camera crew or whatever, but like your producer is always with you, kind of a thing?
Well, flying there, no, you go there on your own. But as soon as I landed, the cameras were there. They were ready. They were ready. I
Yeah.
was not ready, but the cameras were ready. So yeah, we met all the producers and the film crew over there in Colombia.
Well, I know I spoke with Susan, and she was telling me that you guys were in the same hotel, but you didn't really see each other. And I was like, were you there with Susan and with Chad all at the same time, and you never even saw each other? And she was like, no, they kind of
I
tried to
didn't
keep
even
us
know that.
apart. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. I had no idea they were in the same hotel as me, and I'm like, I don't understand how I never saw them filming. Like, they got really lucky, I feel like, with that because I was going in and out of that hotel. I was always leaving and coming back, you know. So the fact that I never saw the film crew recording any of them, I'm really surprised. But
Yeah.
I guess that's how Susan found out about me because she saw them recording me. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's wild. That's wild. Well, do you feel like when you were on the show that you were able to be yourself, as you know, especially as like you're warming up to these dates and stuff? Did you feel like you were able to be yourself?
I do feel like I was able to be myself. Of course, it's always awkward. Like, I mean, imagine you're on a date and there's just like some man in the corner of a room, eyes wide open, staring at you the whole time. Like, how are you going to function fully normally? So it's definitely like maybe like to an extent, I wasn't fully there as like myself. But for the most part, yeah, it's me.
That's funny because you know you were saying on the show you're like I don't want to I don't you don't want to like be overtly sexual or anything weird, and probably that has to do with like I would imagine like cameras on you. You don't want to do anything to upset your family or get like drunk and fall down or anything like that.
But to be honest with Stewart, I did not click with him. And I think it's kind of obvious like 6 minutes in when like he asked to hold my hand and I was like, I'm gonna have to pass on that because off the bat I was like, it just did not click. And also he did say something that was like so off-putting to me immediately, and I was like, this I just knew from the get-go it was not gonna go anywhere.
Yeah, he seemed a little when he was holding your hand, you're like, "Okay, I don't know you." That's a little we talked about that on the podcast. We're like, "Yeah, do you like
Yeah.
that? Do you it's a little forward to just hold somebody's hand unless you're literally trying to like help them be careful across the street or something." He just seemed a little forward. Maybe he was trying to get his moment on TV.
I think, he was trying to be nice. I don't think it was a super big deal. There was a clip that TLC put of that, and oh my gosh, it's like a gender war in the comments. I'm like, whoa, like, it's not that serious. He tried to hold my hand. I wasn't feeling it because, for me, I'm like, there needs to be some natural chemistry leading up to physical interaction, including hand holding. Like, and I know that's
Totally.
not everyone. So I just feel like that was like a difference, and that was all it was.
So we saw you this past week go on a date with Alejandro, right? That was his name? The
Yeah,
guy? Yeah.
Alejandro.
Tell me about Alejandro. Were you put off by his weird ear piercing on the top of his ear?
Yeah, I honestly had not noticed it, and I didn't realize he had the piercing until I was actually listening to your podcast of this show last week, and I was like,
Oh
"Oh
my
my god,
gosh.
I he had a piercing and I didn't notice that." I don't think even if I had noticed it in the moment, I would have really cared too much because actually in Colombia, so many people had piercings, and the guys are actually very creative and out there with their expression. Like you will come across so many guys with full on painted nails, like full on nail designs. They're very expressive with what they like tattoos, piercings, all of that.
Yeah. Well, Stewart took his shirt off and his whole back. I was trying to study that. I was like, it looks like a face. I was trying to figure that
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, he had so many tattoos. If you really look, he had so many tattoos of eyes. And I was like, what is with this obsession with eyes? It's a little, let's like, pick another tattoo next time.
Oh, that would have been interesting to he must have really have something there. I wonder if they're eyes of people he knows or something. That would be weird.
He
Well,
said it
I'm
was
sure
a
he's
beautiful
perfect.
girl.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
I
you go
was just
ahead.
gonna say he said that they were tattoos of beautiful women, like a picture of beautiful women online or something like that. It didn't seem too special, just randomized.
Oh, okay. Not special. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it is interesting because you were talking about how it's hard for you to sort of like feel like you're trying to be sexy, and then the first thing Juan does is makes you go to that salsa class. Well, I was like, first of all, she's not dressed for it. You didn't tell her, and she's in heels, and it looked like it was hot as hell in there.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was so hot. First of all, wearing heels in Colombia is a very risky decision every time because the roads are not very flat. They are not flat. Those sidewalks are like there you might fall, and I almost did fall. I remember getting into that building. But yeah, Juan didn't tell me that we were going to do a salsa class. I was thinking, oh, I'm finally going to go on, like it's going to be my first date. That's why I like put the heels on and the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I was thinking he's going to open a door and there's my date. And that is not what he presented me. He bombarded me with a surprise dance class, which I should have known he was going to do that because he was really on me even before coming to Colombia about learning how to dance because he knows I'm a terrible dancer. I have no sense of rhythm. So I should have seen that coming.
That was funny. Well, I just kept thinking like they need to turn the fans on. She's going to be sweating, and she's got to go on a date, and she's going to be sweating. I was concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Mm.
was, I don't know how everyone else was handling that.
Well, okay. So you've talked on the show, in the same vein of like, well, it's hard for me to like feel like sexy and stuff. But when they show all the pictures of you, like with your friends and stuff out in the club and, all the things that fun 25-year-olds do, you look like you girls are all like having a great time and wearing cute clothes. It's not
Hmm.
like you're dressing like one of the Duggars in a prairie dress or so I think that it's hard for the viewer. It's hard for the viewer to get it because like, look at this stunning girl, and then you're like, oh, I have a hard
Hmm.
time with it. So address that because I would think that you would have guys just like lining up trying to take you out, and you're saying on the show, you're like, no, it's really hard for me.
I think when
Surprising.
I think when like with like some of the scene cuts, some of what I'm really trying to articulate doesn't come out fully because I did
Mm,
notice, it's like a lot of me being like, "Oh, I'm afraid to be sexy." But like what I really mean is like I do have a lack of confidence and I'm very aware of that. And that confidence is very much related to being comfortable with your body and accepting your body. Like and that is something I think a lot of South Asian women are not raised to have like that mindset. Like we're not like raised to be like, oh, like, do you have beautiful breasts? Like, okay, accept it, rock that bikini. It's more like, oh, you have beautiful breasts, you should hide that at all costs. You should be almost like uncomfortable with the fact that you have like a physical asset that's nice.
mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I mean. And even with dancing, like there's so much confidence involved. And salsa is like, it's not like super sexual, but there's like some Latin dances that have like sexual elements that
Yeah.
for me coming in, I'm going to be uncomfortable with because I wasn't raised to like accept sexiness and have the confidence to like be sexy and be like, yeah, I'm sexy and I know it, you know?
Well, I thought you did a great job. And I think that, especially on the date with Alejandro, you seemed a lot more comfortable. And maybe it was just that the conversation flowed easier, maybe. And that's because of there was no language barrier because he spoke, spoke English. So maybe that was
Mhm.
what it seemed. Where were you guys? Because I was like, are they in a zoo? Are they in a rainforest? Like, where was this date?
I don't know how to like say this in English because I remember it was like in Spanish. It was like something like ecological park. I think it's just like, so Colombia has so much beautiful nature that they like really preserve it, and they have these absolutely massive, not like a national forest type thing, but like almost like a mini one, like a big park, and it's just like
Yeah.
so much of their nature. There's like animals, you know. It was that that's where we had gone for the date. It was super beautiful. It had like this ginormous river going through it, a rock climbing wall. I think you could even go zip lining. It was a really fun place.
Oh, that's cool. Well, let's just say, hypothetically, you did meet someone in Colombia, just like you met your previous boyfriend in Lebanon, would you consider moving to another country or would you want that person to move to the States?
Oh, I would definitely move to another country if like I clicked, and I clicked with Colombia. I loved Colombia. I know it doesn't maybe seem like I'm clicking with Colombia as the show's going on, but I loved Colombia and I went back to Colombia after the show. It's the only country I've ever visited twice outside of my
Oh,
parents' country. Yeah.
oh, wow. Did you visit
Yeah.
again because there was a guy there that you wanted to see?
I don't think I'm allowed to say anything because of like
Okay.
NDA stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right, let me ask you this then. How many dates did you have total? Like how many more dates are we going to see you go on? Because the show's going to wind up here in a few episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I do think the episode after this is supposed to be my last episode, which
Okay.
will be in like 2 weeks. So
Hmm.
I don't really know because I think they've been skipping around even my dates. So even before this Alejandro that you saw me on the most recent episode, I went on a date with another Alejandro before him, and he was also a
Oh.
DJ. So I went on dates with two Alejandro DJs through the show. Um, so yeah.
I wonder if they'll
I
show
don't know.
that. I would. That's surprising.
Yeah, I don't know why that date ended up getting cut out. I do remember that at that date, I actually really liked as well, and I thought things were going really good. We went. There's like this day. I think it's every Sunday in Medellin where they go skating. Like everyone, like they close the freeways. Everyone just goes skating everywhere. And so we went on that for the date. And everything was going good. But I remember at the end of the date, it was so weird. Just out of nowhere, I asked him why did he use a matchmaker, and he just got up and he was like, "I can't do this." Just left. And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." So maybe something happened, and that's why they like didn't include him. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he got up and was like, "I'm not going to sign the paperwork, and I don't want to do this." That's weird. That is weird.
Yeah,
Maybe he was married or
yeah.
something.
Yeah, I have no idea what occurred, but we still talk. You know, we're still friends. So I don't
Okay.
know what happened though. I know, yeah,
Well, that's interesting. So if this works out, maybe we would see you on like 90 Day the Other Way. If you're
maybe, which would be really fun. That'd be so cool. You know, like I said, I love 90 Day Fiance, so I wouldn't be upset
Yeah.
to join.
Wow, that would be a crossover. There's always shows where, especially on like Seeking Sister Wife and stuff, it'll be like this girl that they like is in Brazil. We're like, oh, it's going to be a crossover with 90 Day Fiance. They're trying to bring in a sister wife
Mm,
from another. Well, I'm always hoping for some sort of like Love After Lockup, 90 Day Fiance crossover.
yeah,
Like, it would
I
be
didn't know
very
they did that
exciting.
many. Is that like very common? I didn't know that was such a thing.
Oh yeah, I've only seen crossovers really on like housewives shows. You never really see
Mm,
crossovers on 90 Day. I mean, you see people on multiple seasons, but if we had somebody from Match Me Abroad that then went over to 90 Day, I think that would be perfection. Maybe it'll be
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully you guys get someone from the show. Maybe it'll be me, maybe it'll be someone else. Could be Harold. Harold is looking amazing on the show. His match is going great. I
I
literally could
know.
not stop smiling the last episode watching him. Oh my god, super cute. Yes.
I know, and I have like a cold black heart, and nothing ever gets me or makes me tear up or feel anything. But that when he was holding your hand and he said, "Everything I've been looking for," and now she's right across the table, I was like, "Oh my God, Harold's gonna make me cry." So sweet.
Yeah, yeah. And I think watching that episode, every time like Harold kind of said something, I'm like, oh my God, how is Michaela gonna respond to this? Because he would be
Yes.
pretty forward. I was like, oh my God, is she gonna get scared? But no, like they're really on the same page. They really are on the same wavelength. So that's great.
I know. I was very worried too. I was like, "Don't blow it." And I love he's like, "Do you like these clothes?" She was like, "Sure, they're fine." He's like, "These aren't my regular clothes. They made me wear these clothes."
Oh,
He
that's
really
so
wants
cute.
somebody to accept his clothes, and he's not having it with the new clothes. And the new clothes look great, but he likes his suspenders. So funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, so my next question was, would you be on another season of this show? Or like if it didn't work out and you didn't make a match, would you go on a second season or you would go on 90 Day, which you've already said yes because you've already applied?
I have no idea. I think I would have to be like presented with the idea and then I think about it because the experience of being on this show is a lot of it wasn't what I expected. I
Mm,
loved Colombia. I still think filming was so fun, but I think there does have to be a level of you that's willing to kind of act. Maybe not for everyone, but I do feel like for me sometimes I think it took away too much from genuine moments when like, camera crew's like, "Hey, wait, could you say that one more time?" And then I'm like saying it again and the
yeah.
genuine moment is gone. I'm not sure how I really feel about that. I think I was a bit naive going into the show thinking that everything was gonna be just like recorded and I wouldn't have to like reenact a scene or anything like that. It was a bit naive of me.
Yeah, I think that on reality shows, a lot of times they get what you say, and you did say it, but maybe they were either retelling the film or they were looking at something else, and they're like, "Hold on, that was good." And I think that happens a
Yeah.
lot. Sometimes we see these airport scenes where somebody will be at the airport and see a 90 Day Fiance crew recording somebody, and they'll say, "Oh, they recorded it 3 times." And I'm like, "There's only so
Mm.
many times somebody can come out and like cry." you know?
Yeah, oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, they never had me like redo any like intense scenes. More like little things like maybe like when I met Stewart for the first time, like, hey, could you like do the high one more time? Like maybe we could have gotten like a better angle type thing.
Yeah,
Which I get, but again, like as someone like I just don't think maybe it's really meant for me.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that on the show you're coming across as very sort of sweet and genuine, and you have a great laugh, which is
Oh my god.
you have a great laugh, and I think that I think you are coming across as being yourself. So that's why I was kind of wondering, like, how hard is it to be yourself? Well, like you said, like there's a guy in the corner, like we saw this past week on 90 Day, before the 90 days, we're seeing Christian and Cleo, and Cleo turns around because she's autistic, and she said, I'm neurodivergent and I don't like things that are unexpected. So she turns around and like asks the whole camera crew, and they show the producer, the soundboard person, and the camera guy, like you're saying, like a big dude with a camera. And they're showing how awkward it has to be sitting there trying to have a conversation with
Mhm.
your friend, and three people
Yeah.
are sitting there staring at you. So it would be
Mhm.
really hard if
Yeah.
it's somebody you'd never met.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, and I will say also, like you do get to see me on the show, but it's like you get to see a version of me, like you never get to see the full date. So if I do something fun, kind of like with Stewart when we were taking shots, like I feel like everyone thinks I'm like very innocent and I don't have fun and I don't enjoy myself. And it's like, I mean, you don't get to see me have shots with this guy and maybe drinking a little bit more than I should have been drinking because it gets cut out.
Yeah.
And I think really what you guys get to see is like more of my moments where I'm like awkward and I'm shy and I'm innocent and I'm like still getting to know them. You don't really get to see me let loose too much.
Well, hopefully coming up, we'll get to see you let loose a little bit. Because, like I said, when
Yes.
they're showing you and your Instagram pictures and stuff. To me, you look like every other fun 25-year-old girl going out and
Yeah.
having fun with your friends. And then, so I think
Yeah.
you're right. Maybe maybe they're trying to portray you as being like a little innocent, and maybe it's, you are 25. It's not like you're 16,
Yeah, yeah. And I will also say, maybe the difference in that too is when I go out with my girls, like I
Right.
can have fun with my girls and I feel comfortable. I'm not thinking about anything. But when you're on a date with a guy and you've just met them and you have no idea who they are, like it's kind of hard to get comfortable and being like, "Oh my gosh, like let's do this, let's do that." Oh my god, like it's hard to let loose with a stranger, you know?
Totally. And then people are filming
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Um, your mom said on the first episode that when you got to the airport, she was going to meet you at the airport and she would already have a new guy for you. So did that happen? When you got home, did she say, okay, I've already got another guy for you?
Actually, that's so funny that you mentioned that. I forgot she had said that on the show. But yeah, when I came back from Colombia, one of the first things she did was open up WhatsApp and show me a picture of a guy who she was like, "What do you think about this guy?" Like, and I was like, "Oh my God, we're already back here." So yeah, she's kind of been laying it low for a little minute, because I don't want to say why, but she's
Okay.
been, not been giving me any more matches right now.
Okay. That's good. All right. That's good.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. How did she feel about being filmed? Because you guys were filmed at home and you were filmed in that dress shop. How did she feel about it?
I think she was really nervous, I think she was initially really nervous because my mom, she can speak English, but she's not like fluent in English. So I think like it's very understandable that she didn't want, people to be watching the show and like criticizing her words when she's not fluent. But super thankful that the show got a translator and she was able to comfortably be on the show and speak in our native language, Sinhalese. So
Yes.
she had a good time. As soon as that was like allowed, she had a really good time.
Yeah, because I did notice that she mostly spoke in your language, but then she did dip in and out into English a little bit,
Mhm.
which led me to believe she speaks English, but maybe she just I think that's perfectly reasonable. She doesn't want to be like criticized or somebody to
Yeah,
pick it apart. Yeah, especially if it's not her native
yeah,
language, because she could say a word wrong and then that would be nerve
yeah,
wracking as well. In addition to having a camera
mhm,
on you, my gosh.
yeah.
Well,
And it does happen a lot with me and my mom. We actually do a lot of the times speak where she's in Sinhalese, I'm in English, because sometimes, like, especially like if I'm explaining a frustrating thought, I mean, my brain goes to English. That's the language that
yeah.
I'm thinking in. Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, I will be very interested to see what happens. And if there's any upcoming season of any show that you might be on, I hope you'll come back and talk to us, even though you can't say anything about it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how things go. I'm excited to hopefully meet the cast members. We're planning a trip to Vegas. It's been so cool talking to them and getting to know them. Everyone is super awesome. Literally everyone is lovely.
oh, well, that's great. Oh my gosh, you guys will have to like post all about that if you do go do a big cast trip to Vegas. That would be so fun because I know you guys are all like
Yes.
separate and all over the country, and you weren't even in the same countries. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. It would be really, really cool to finally see everyone and see how like authentic everyone's experiences are, what was really going on behind the scenes, get to have that
Yeah.
little chit chat.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, tell everybody where they can follow you and find you on social media if you want. If you don't want, that's fine. But most people do want. So,
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram. My at is Nathaly Leonidas. If you really want to engage with me, I made a Twitter just to engage with, viewers. That one is also Nathaly Leonidas. Feel free to hit me up on there.
Nathalyleonides?
AS.
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 Oh, I was one off. Okay. Nathalyleonidas on Twitter and Instagram if you want to reach out
Yes.
and talk about the show. And like I told Susan, you guys just stay off of the Reddit and the comments and stuff because there are trolls out there
Yeah.
and they'll just say anything about anything. So don't even worry about it.
Yeah. Honestly, it's really interesting. the trolling community is so intense, and
Yes.
unfortunately, one of our cast members actually contributes to some of that. We've actually been getting some serious bullying in the cast because one of the cast members is really involved in one of those communities and really, unfortunately, talks very terribly about the other cast members. It's really disappointing.
That is
Yeah.
disappointing. That's wild. Well, I told Susan, I
Yeah.
was like, you need to think about it. Like, let's say there's 1 million people that watch the show, and then you've got 20 people said something rude. Who cares? It's not even, it's less than 0.0000%. So who
Yeah.
cares, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us really care too much about the viewers saying negative things, but it hits a different way when someone who is a cast member who like goes through the same experience as you, who knows what's really going on, like decides to feed into what viewers are saying and like kind of contribute to a picture being painted just to create content out of it. I feel like it's totally fine how you want to take the show and go forward with it. And if you want to get a following, if you want to be an influencer, but you shouldn't be doing that by degrading someone else who went through the same experience as you.
Totally. Totally. Well, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. All right, everybody follow, I'm going to say it right, Nathaly. See?
Yeah. Nathaly.
Nathaly. Nathaly.
Yeah.
Follow her on Twitter and Instagram, and don't hang up. We're not done. But everybody follow us. As you remember, follow us at Pink Shade Pod, and enjoy the recap today that I did with Keisha, and I'll talk to you next week.